It's Friday the 10th of April. Here it is the weekend here in Qatar. Welcome to Ginger Camel Network Live. We have our daily guest, Dr. Hanan Al-Basha, the business doctor. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
And we have Jeffrey Asselstine from Nelson Park Property, real estate CEO and owner. How are you, Jeffrey?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thanks for having me on today.
Hey, I could not miss you out. Had to have you on. And I'm going to read Jeffrey's sponsorship message, as I have done in the last few days. So thank you, Jeffrey, for the sponsorship. This podcast is sponsored by Nelson Park Property, awarded the best real estate agency for 2019. Nelson Park Property has been operating in Qatar for more than 10 years, helping families find their home, individuals purchase their next investment, and companies move to their new offices. With Nelson Park's team of more than 30 agents, they are confident of helping you make the right decision for your real estate needs. Get in contact with Nelson Park Property on 5551-7567 or visit www.nelsonparkproperty.com. Over the shows, I've been reading that out, and then I've seen the strap come up, and it says now nelsonparkproperty.net.
Yes.
And I only noticed it yesterday, and then so I was thinking, oh no, we've got it wrong. And then I had a word with my son who's doing the strap lines, and he said, no, when I checked it out, it was Nelson Park Property Net. So then we checked it out, and it is, you've got both the names, yeah?
Correct, yeah. So both of you were correct.
Very good. Anyway, about this show, we want this show to be positive and uplifting podcast where you can walk away feeling revitalized and ready to face another day. We are going to bring you experts in their field, as you can see, to let us know how they are dealing with this current situation and what measures they have taken to get through this storm. We also want to hear from you if you want to be on the show, or if you have some entertaining skills. We want to hear from singers, musicians, performers. You can have a spot on this show, and we'll put you on just to do your spot, even if you don't want to be interviewed. And you can contact us on network@gingercamel.com, or you can message us on the message board on the side here on Facebook Live. Okay, let's go. So Jeffrey, first question, I'm curious, with the current situation, how is the real estate market?
It's a really interesting time. One thing I will always say about real estate is the wonderful thing about being in this industry is everyone always needs a place to live. So, there's always the amount of demand for places to live has not changed. There's always people looking. I think it has been a little bit slower, to be frank. Obviously, we as a company have a responsibility not only to our colleagues, but also to our clients, that we respect first of all, the government regulations, number one, that we've been asked to work under, and we follow those. And number two, respecting social distancing, sanitization, as far as wearing. We give people the option or the ability to wear gloves. If they want to wear a mask, they can do so. Sterilization, hand cleaning, all the things you would normally need to do as part of this current situation we're under. All of our team, are working through it in that manner. So we, people that need a place to live, we continue to help them find a place. And so from that perspective, it's going well. We've had a number, I think where things are a little bit slower, it's just a feature of the current market. We had a number of people that were on holiday that have not been able to come back, or indeed clients that are outside the country that had been on holiday or are moving to Qatar who are due to fly in. Obviously that's now on hold. So I think one thing I'm really positive about is as soon as things open at the appropriate time, that we're actually going to have a flood of new customers, people that we're already in touch with and already speaking to. And the flip side, which has been very interesting, is a lot of times people will start their property search online. And at the risk of a shameless plug, obviously we have our website, which you mentioned before. We have our own app, and we find a lot of our customers now, because they tend to be online more, or whether that's sitting at home or doing whatever, that we're getting a lot of inquiries online. And so what we're doing now is having those discussions over the telephone now, and just getting ready for when people feel more comfortable to go out, then we'll go ahead and do that.
And how have you been doing viewings? Have the agents been actually going along with masks and gloves, or how have they happened?
So it's frankly, we've as you know, there isn't necessarily regulation what people may or may not have to wear. So what we've said to all of our own team, first of all, is we are happy for them to go out in whatever manner they feel comfortable with. Some feel not very comfortable at all, so have really, lowered their viewings. Others feel quite comfortable, and some are wearing masks, some wear gloves. It really depends on the agent. So we've shared all the guidelines that everyone's sharing. Then it's up to them. And then also we're respectful to the property. So there are maybe one or two properties where landlords have asked us not to do viewings, but the vast majority, it's still available. We're just hyper careful when it comes, frankly, to opening doors, to sets of keys, and things that we hand over. Obviously, we don't shake hands with our clients, which feels really awkward in a business which is such a trusting business. The first thing I do is I extend my hand, and to not shake someone's hand feels really uncomfortable. But everyone knows, and everyone's okay with it. So, yeah, there are a lot of viewings going on, but frankly, it is less, and we just need to be respectful to to the regulations, to our own staff, and to our clients, to find their level of comfort in line with the government's rules.
And how do you greet people now then? What's your little technique?
Smile and wave. So I'll say, nice to meet you. It's interesting because I think the first week or so, when this whole idea of kind of elbow pumped or touching heels was kind of done as a joke, but within even a week, it was like, no, we're not even doing that anymore.
No.
So we just, so I have, from time to time, I might have if someone comes to my office, I will be at my office door, and as they walk towards me, I basically walk backwards into the office, and just so that way, I would prefer, obviously, that not being the case, but what I try to do is I want them to feel comfortable. So as they come out and say, please have a seat, then I sit, a good distance away so they don't feel uncomfortable.
Hanan, have you done any business face to face, or is it now just totally virtual?
Nope, it's all virtual.
Okay.
But actually, I want to pose a question to Jeffrey. Just thinking, because as you were talking, and I know because when we were looking for a house 3 years ago, first thing is you shake hands. You have to establish that rapport and that relationship of confidence and trust with your agent, and then look around the house. Have you considered some form of disruptive technology, if we would call that, or innovation, in the sense that I know that the first thing we do is we look for houses online. So have you considered doing virtual tours? That could be one way, or the other way is actually, if your agents are already on ground, then possibly have video conferencing with potential clients and them going through the house and showing it to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have that one person on person.
Yeah, it's and like a lot of good ideas in my company, it's always the agents that come up with them long before I've thought about it. So one day I sort of posed the same question, Dr. Hanan, and I had quite a few agents going, Jeff, we've been doing that for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So a lot of agents have already been doing it. Either a combination of just really having more photos, or sharing videos they've done. I know until recently, House Party was being used in some occasions.
Yes.
I know of a couple of particular examples where the client was on House Party with the agent, and they just walked around the property. So yeah, without a doubt, whenever that can be done, then we do it. We just launched a project the other day, and again, normally I would be saying to my colleagues, let's get out, let's go and meet the clients. And so what we've done is we've just really tried to improve the audio, this is, I'm showing my age, audio visual stuff that we have, but basically the videos, the printed materials, the stuff we can send over WhatsApp, the stuff we can email to clients is frankly, it's the highest quality that we have done for any project before. Before, we would really count on the face-to-face much more than worrying about the videos and things. But this time we flipped it around. In fact, I've had discussions now with 25 clients, and not one of them has been face-to-face. It's all been literally over the telephone, but a lot of communication back and forth through email, WhatsApp, and different platforms.
And this falls in line, Stefan, with what we were talking about the first day. It's the leadering through these unprecedented uncertainty, period of uncertainty, and it's when you're a business owner or a leader and you really open up to your crew, to your team, and sharing with them and asking them to come up with the innovation, and that in itself. As you know, they're the ones immersed out in the field, and they're the ones doing a lot of the work as well. And there's always a way that they can think of how they can improve and how they can deliver the service or the product in a new way. And we've seen this with also a lot of companies who never would have thought of delivering or shopping online with. And I know one of them was, for example, I got a message from a luxury watch retailer and jewelry and stuff, and they're like, you can check our products online and we'll deliver right home. And I'm like, okay. So apparently the market, the high-end retail market is not dead either.
No.
And I think that is the beautiful thing, and I think that's part of humanity adaptation. It's when you're cornered, you really have to think out of the box, and that is the essence of innovation. Innovation in terms of products and services, and innovation in terms of the delivery of those products and services, and in terms of marketing them, in terms of doing business. And that is the positive view lens of what's happening right now. It's just being open to new ways.
I think if you look at any, of these, this situation we're under right now is unprecedented in all of our lifetimes. But if you look at any historical situations of crises or problems, frankly, it's always the entrepreneurs that lead the way.
Yes.
Right. It's when I say the entrepreneurs, the business owners, particularly the smaller business owners, that then, along with their teams, or the teams dragging them along with whichever it is, but it's these companies that tend to really, really drive the change, and really, provide the solutions to get through things. I was listening. I'm sure there's examples in Qatar. Unfortunately, I don't know one offhand, but of a very high-end restaurant in New York who proudly would never allow takeaway. They don't do delivery, they don't do takeaway because the quality of their food will suffer. Having it dropped off in a box 20 minutes after being cooked, as opposed to being served on a plate. But they've said, for this limited period of time, we will do this. And that's, for their customers and frankly, for themselves as well. There's nothing wrong with that. And, but they've said, okay, for this period of time, we'll do it. And I'm sure without a doubt, they will get a lot of customers that they didn't have in the past that will now experience their food. And then we'll say, right, well, I now want to go to this restaurant because if it's this good from a box, it's going to be amazing face to face. And I think that's very wise of them to make that change. I mean, this what you're doing now, Stefan, I think is very clever. Having something out there on a regular basis, it just draws people's attention to different ways of doing things. Absolutely.
No, I hope it inspires other people to do this.
Yeah.
I've got a question, Jeffrey. As a leader, as a business owner, and with this pandemic happening, how do you, because everyone in your team is experiencing in different ways, emotionally, physically, because they're concerned about their families abroad, families here, et cetera, et cetera. How do you motivate them to be able to, because you want 100% from them, to be able to go out there and represent Nelson Park Property? How do you do that? How do you instill positive emotions?
Yeah, I think, there are so many kind of phrases or cliches that I use on a regular basis, but I really believe that Stefan, you and I have discussed multiple times that mindset is absolutely critical. And the reality is, in times, like I referred to earlier, in times of incredible change, things still need to get done. If I look at our business, frankly, the vast majority of my employees are agents. The agents are on commission only. So for them, there is a inherently, a built-in mechanism that motivates them to want to do business and close deals. But I kind of referred to it earlier. What I have stressed from the beginning is I will do my best to have the systems in place to allow them to function, have the office supporting them as much as possibly that we can. But I leave individual agents up to working in a manner that they feel comfortable with. And some have different health conditions. Some have different family situations, which will affect their ability to assist. And all I ask them to do is really do the very, very best they can with what they're comfortable with, and I provide them that flexibility. And then really, from my perspective, has always been is I always want them to see that I'm out working every day. When I say working every day, we're up. Because of the change in office hour regulations, our offices used to be 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, depending which of our two offices. It's now 7 to 1. So normally by 8 o'clock each morning, I will have sent a video message to my entire team so that they know that I'm up and we're running and we're doing things. Because come back to Dr. Anand's question, there are clients that need service. We can't force anyone to do a viewing, but if clients want to do a viewing, then we want to make sure that throughout our team that we have people that are there to help them. So all I try to do is, provide that the systems in place to allow them to go out and do it. We often, because of the nature of our business, we spend a lot of time with our clients, but we also have a very, very important part of our network, which is our landlords. And our landlords are counting on us to deliver them with clients. An empty property does not help a landlord pay their mortgage. And, they need our assistance for that as well. And so I think we have an obligation to clients on both sides, whether it's a tenant that's looking to find a place or an owner that's looking to find a tenant, or indeed a seller that is looking to, to sell their property, that we have an obligation to do our best under the current circumstance. And what I try to do is always show my team that I'm willing to, I'm out there with them and I'm doing everything that I'm asking of them to do, I'm doing myself. And, I put on LinkedIn yesterday, I've been just blown away by so many of my team who have just gone on with it, rolled with the punches, and delivered incredibly well during what are challenging times. I know some other people in our industry have closed their doors. And that's their decision, and I hope they reopen. In other words, I hope they haven't closed because they're finished. I hope they're just not opening at the moment. But I really hope they come back. But our view has always been, I think we have responsibility. I have responsibility to my team, and responsibility to tenants and to my customers to make sure that we deliver as best as we can under the current circumstances.
Now, with this video message, is there a bit of motivational speech there as well?
But in that last part, or coming up?
No, just every day. Is there a motivational quote that you use, or is it just you have to do this, or you've got to reach your sales targets? What is that video message?
I do read a lot around sales performance and sales teams. I've actually not had that question. I'll be frank with you. Every day that I've given this message, I've not quoted anyone. I just tell them how I'm feeling and from the heart.
That's good.
I might have read something in my devotions in the morning, or maybe it's a conversation from yourself or something I've heard that's inspired a thought. That's for sure. But I've really just I don't like catchphrases so much, although I use them all the time. But so I'm not going to use the word authentic because I find it boring. But I just try to be honest. And I think I may not always show it, but deep down, I'm a very, very, very positive person. And one thing I did, one bit of advice I did get from another company who's in a similar business is I looked back over the 10 years of Nelson Park, and I highlighted 5 crises that we've had. And we've come through all 5 of them. And each time we come through them, it's always a challenge, and we get beaten up a little bit on the way through, but we always come out, and at the end of it, we're stronger. And Nelson, the story, Stefan, Nelson Park Property started with me getting fired in 2008 in the financial crisis. So without that crisis, Nelson Park wouldn't exist. And so my goal now is to make sure that with these crises, we actually just get stronger. And that's what I'm seeing. So
Very good.
I don't have, necessarily a quote from other people, although one of the internal things that I made up one day that I always use is if you look at agents doing one of 2 things at any given time, one is doing a viewing and the other thing is doing everything else. And so I have this phrase of what are you doing when you're not on a viewing? So if you're not out with customers, what are you doing? So there's a chance to be calling customers, to be upgrading your LinkedIn profile, to be, making sure you know about the properties, making sure you know about our systems. So today we have more time on that side than we would have had previously. So I've really encouraged my team to spend, to kind of spend that time. I mean, I know a lot of people are doing spring cleaning. I've done that with my own office, both my home office and my office at work. But I've used this time with less customers to try to focus on all those other smaller projects that if I only had the time to do, I would do. Well, now I'm doing them. And that's what I'm trying to encourage everyone else to do as well.
Yeah. Dr. Hannon, is that way to motivate people, is to show your honesty?
Definitely. I mean, as we were saying yesterday, the more human and humane you are, the more relatable you are. And in that sense, that creates that sense, especially within an organization, especially if it's the leader, and that creates the sense of, what's the word? Maybe cooperation, maybe connection, positivity for sure, but also the understanding that there's no guilting there, that if I'm feeling out of the norm, then, or if I'm feeling the same way, then hang on a second, there's a unity there. We're feeling the same way. It is definitely, it has worked with a lot of people. It has worked where also when you have open brainstorming sessions saying, I'm just thinking out loud, let's using your team as a sounding board. And when I used to lead teams in my whether the businesses that I helped co-found or even within the last corporate jobs I've had, I've always had this, okay, I'm thinking out loud. If we do this, give me the pros and cons and let's discuss through them. And that is, in essence, that's a process for innovation as well, because we all come from different, we all have our individual worldview lens, and we all have our constructs of our life and how we process them and our perspectives on them. I believe it's when we have that collective view, that's in essence what defines the spirit of an organization. That's what defines the culture of it. That's where organizational vision actually sometimes even comes based on that. And it's bringing all that together. It's understanding that you all have a say and you all have value. And I'm connecting with you. I'm sharing. We were talking about vulnerability yesterday, Stefan, and I'm sharing my vulnerability with you. So I'm human. So are you. So is everyone. And in that comes a lot of empowerment. And I think during these times, empowerment is such a big word. It's not just a word, it's actually actions. And as Jeffrey was just explaining, those small actions, these are the ones that build up on top of each other and help you go through these uncertainty, these times of uncertainty, and helps you grow stronger.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it. You're doing a great job.
Absolutely. Good job, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
How do you emotionally keep it together? Who's your support?
There's a few things. I think my faith is a large part of this. That is the grounding. I'm far from perfect, but my faith provides a lot of grounding, and I think I try to start my day in that. I try to start my day as well as just being thankful for the things that we have, the blessings that are in our life. I think that certainly does a lot for me. I haven't, we've all got the ability, as Dr. Hannon was just referring to, is, there are, darker thoughts do come into our mind from time to time. And I'm very aware when they do, and I just don't let them hang around.
You kick them out.
Well, I heard a great phrase yesterday, or a couple nights ago in one of my groups, and it said, you can't stop a bird from landing on your head, but you can stop from building a nest. And I love that, because it'll come in, right? A dark thought will come in, and okay, you can choose to let it roll around and hang around, or you can choose to move it along. And I don't get a lot of benefit from dwelling on negative things. I think something I discussed with a member of my team the other day. She is here with and she has one son, and we were talking about just how challenging the time can be. She goes, "Well, I've only got one kid, but you've got three, Jeff." And I said to her, I said, listen, that doesn't matter. If we're struggling, we're struggling, right? I know a good friend of mine, he's one of 12 kids. Just because I have more, there's a lot of people who have more than I do.
Yeah.
But if you're struggling, you're struggling. And, I think there's many, many ways that we can build each other up. I think one of the, particularly as expatriates, I've been an expat now for 28 years this summer. And I love it. Absolutely love living overseas, love being an expat. I always say there's only one thing I don't like about it, and that's being away from my family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this situation has exacerbated that for a lot of us. I know your family and where it's kind of spread around. You know a lot about my family and how it is, and no one here really has all their kids with them. I have a great Qatari friend, and he has one of his sons are here, but the other two are in the States. And it's challenging. It's challenging for all of us. And I think I think being honest about that stuff that goes along is important. But to kind of come back to your question, for me, I look at my faith as a starting point, and then really try to make sure that I'm sharing. And I fail on this every single day, but try to share, positive, my positive views on things, and try not to overreact, which I definitely fail at every day, as my family would agree with, and try not to get wound up by the smaller things, and let the smaller things roll off my back more than they used to.
That's what I found difficult, is sometimes to be positive when you're not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way we can get around that, Dr. Allen?
No,
can we? Because you want, but you want to help people. You want to give that positivity out, but you're not feeling it.
Again, if you are denying yourself your full spectrum of emotions, then what you're doing is you're frustrating yourself further, and what that would do is entail that you will actually feel worse.
Yeah.
As Jeffrey was saying, exactly, feel it. I actually just put one of the I put a motivational quote and a couple of lines just to further enlighten the idea on a daily basis on my Facebook and on my group and on Instagram as well. And one of them was about that. It was about acknowledging your emotions and acknowledging what you are feeling. But then I went a step further, and I was talking about this recently, actually. And as I was talking, it was actually a podcast. And as I was talking, I came up with this thing, and I dubbed it the processing process. And I said, yet again, I don't know if someone else has come up with it or if it was just an assimilation of what I've been reading and learning so far. But I found that every time I felt lately at a dip, not lately, over the past couple of years, that's how I've been processing it. First, I stop and I acknowledge what am I feeling. Once you are actually clear about the emotion itself, is it anger, is it frustration, is it depression, is it anxiety, whatever it is, then it kind of becomes more clear in your mind. Mm-hmm. And then the next question would be, what's happened to make me feel that way? So it's kind of going back on an audit, whether it's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is that you've been feeling that time frame, and just kind of doing an audit of people you've spoken to, conversations you've had, something you've read, a message you've received, whatever it is, just understanding where the trigger point is. Mm. And then it's then trying to process why this made me feel that way. And a lot of the times, if you are consciously working on healing from limiting beliefs, from any kind of limitations, of course, if you're going through any trauma, of course, but that I'm sure you'd be working then with someone professional, a therapist or a psychiatrist, then you recognize why that has triggered you in that way. And or if it's just someone who's self-projecting their own insecurities onto you, like we were talking yesterday, Stefan, when someone makes kind of a comment about something you're very proud of, but they're trying to belittle that effort. Mostly it's people self-projecting because they can't face their own insecurities as well. And then acknowledging that feeling, acknowledging if there is any action that you would like to take beyond that. And If there's a phone call you need to make, if there's a journal you want to get it out and on a piece of paper, if you want to put a voice note out just to kind of just process through that, and then moving on, and then you move on. But just saying, I can't feel bad, I have to feel good. Guess what? You're not going to feel good after it. But you have to allow yourself, you have to give yourself permission to process through your spectrum of emotions. But then the action is try to understand why you're feeling that way. Go to the root cause. And I think that's one of the main things I learned over the past few years is understanding the root cause of the symptom. What you're feeling is a symptom. What caused the feeling is the root cause. And that's where you need to address. And that's where you need to understand how you can, well, if you can eliminate it altogether, then great. But if not, then how can you process through it?
Oh, absolutely. The root cause, that's what I'm always looking at, is what triggered me to feel that way. And my lesson this morning when I was talking on Instagram was the fact that sometimes I fall into the habit of waking up and immediately reaching out to my phone and looking at the WhatsApp messages, looking at the news. And immediately my mind is just like feeling down. Suddenly I've had all this information that's generally negative, especially around these days. And it's just like, and I tell myself, look, you've got into the habit again of just reaching for the phone. Stop it. Don't do it. Get into the right frame of mind. Go and do your exercise, do your meditation, do your yoga, etc., etc. And then you're ready in your time to face whatever information you want to take on board. But it's your decision to do that.
Your subconscious, when you first wake up, is the most susceptible to getting whatever kind of programming you're putting into it. So the first 30 to 60 minutes at least of your day, you should avoid your phone completely. You should avoid the news. You should avoid all social media. When I learned to do that, that has made a huge difference in my life.
And is that the same for going to bed as well? You should give yourself a 30 to 60 minute break before you fall asleep.
Definitely. Actually, we've been off news for the past 2 weeks, and that has helped us so much.
I can believe it.
But even with social media, I try to switch off. It's I could be watching a movie or reading. I don't do reading before I sleep anymore. I'd love to go back to that habit because it is relaxing one.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely nothing stimulating in that sense. Just even when I wake up in the morning, I also prep my coffee, go through my meditation, any affirmations I need to go, and then I kind of see. And even if the phone is on and everything, because I'm doing it through YouTube, I'm not checking WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. I'm giving myself, I'm kind of bracing and prepping my mind for the day ahead, and then acknowledging whatever from that frame of mind I put myself in first.
And Jeffrey, do you have a morning routine?
Yeah, it's very similar. And I'm actually really pleased when I hear a professional like Dr. Hanan referring to, I guess, what I've been experiencing is, and I've been, I know from what I've been reading that when a lot of, say, successful people will often say the key to their day is that morning routine, whatever their one is. And I've been toying with it, frankly, for probably about 3 years. And it's only really worked for me when I put my devotions first. When I moved that to the beginning and not to the end, it changed everything.
Yeah.
And I think, Dr. Nan, I think what you're saying, and forgive me correct me if I have this wrong, is, finding that right method for you.
Sure.
One thing, I'll just throw this in. What I used to do is I would leave my email. I used to always read, don't look at your email for the first 2 hours or whatever, do all this other stuff first. And that used to annoy me terribly. So now I'll actually do my devotions. I'll look at my email for 2 minutes. I'll just look at it and go, right, there's nothing in there. And then I'll go and do my other things. In other words, I will actually have a look at it because it just gets it out of my mind that I don't need to think about it anymore. And then I'll do my other tasks. Then when I'm at the office, and I'll really tackle my email. So for me, it's been a case of, finding that routine for me that works. Again, with me, I try to do my fitness in the morning. it never worked, and it used to annoy me, and I'd get upset. So I'd go into the office upset. But now that I do in the evening, I'm doing it successfully in the evening. I'm really happy with it. It works. So again, I think you're saying this. It's not a case of everyone having to have the same thing.
No.
It's finding the right one for you. But I really, really agree that it wasn't until I put the devotions at the beginning that it changed. That it really, really made a difference.
That is exactly it, Jeffrey. Your routine, whether that's a morning, afternoon, or evening routine, is very subjective. You have to create one that works for you, for your rhythm of life, for whatever setting you have in your life, and whatever makes you feel good. I mean, for me, it's meditation, affirmations in the morning. They made my day, and that for me made a big difference. I'm the type also that used to, when I used to, but I will go back to doing that exercise in the morning after that process and after my first double espresso of the day. So I that. And that made me feel good. That set up my day. When I had to take a slot, a workout slot midday, for example, it threw me off balance.
Yeah.
I like to get that out of the way, and then I have the rest of my day to go through my routine. Same thing. Some people actually thrive with evening workouts, whether it's post work or just before they go to bed. They have their workout, they shower, and then they're ready to go to bed. So it really is very subjective. Unfortunately, a lot of people go up, and especially now that we've got tons of social media channels and influencers in that sense, trying to impose their routine onto you. Some cannot wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get things done, and that is one of the things. If you miss out on that, kind of frame of the day, then you're not setting up yourself for success. Actually, some people thrive when they wake up at 8. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're not waking up midday and saying, I've got the rest of the day ahead, then we know you've missed a good portion of the sunshine, But it really is, yet again, I always go back to doing this, whether it's about business or individual goals or health or fitness or nutrition, whatever it is, find what works for you. Find what makes you thrive, and find what you can adapt into your life and create a habit out of. Because if you're trying to force yourself into doing something that you're just very uncomfortable with, it's never going to become a habit, and you're never going to be comfortable doing it, and then you'll never actually benefit in that sense from doing it and from sticking to it. So I'm all about doing your thing. So if your thing works, keep doing it.
Great. On that note, we've run out of time, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for being a star, for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Hanan, again, for giving your wise input. Superb. See you tomorrow. And Jeffrey, we'll catch up with you sometime in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All the best. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.